Alright, let's talk Ball X Pit, because this is one of those games that really opens up the longer you stick with it. At first, you're just throwing balls and hoping for the best, but run after run, things start to click. You begin to notice crazy synergies, weirdly powerful combos, and suddenly, the upgrade system isn't just random anymore. It's pushing you to experiment. After spending an honestly unhealthy amount of time down in the pit, I finally feel confident enough to break down which evolution balls actually deserve the hype. As you go deeper, one thing becomes crystal clear. Area of effect balls are king, and poison-based evolutions are doing some absolutely disgusting work. On top of that, balls that apply debuffs and increase the damage enemies take can become completely overpowered in the late game if you build around them correctly. In this video, we're ranking the evolution balls based on how strong their evolved forms really are, not just how they feel early on. So if you want to know which balls are worth committing to, which Evolians can carry your runs, and which ones are secretly broken, you're in the right place. Let's get into it. I'm quickly moving on to the video, and I'm ranking evolution balls in Ball X Pit. Before we start, if you enjoy these types of list videos, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Enjoy watching.
My friends, only 0.1% of viewers subscribe. If you like this type of content, please do not forget to subscribe to the channel. Thank you in advance for your support.
The evolution balls in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right: Wraith, Storm, Laser Vertical, Succubus, Iron, Earthquake, Charm, Freeze, Ghost, Lightning, Light, Wind, Stone, Steel, and Catapult. Let's talk about the kind of balls you unlock out of pure hope, not because they're actually good. The D tier evolution balls in Ball X Pit are a perfect example of that emotional rollercoaster. On paper, this path looks exciting because Charm is mandatory if you want to reach Satan. And yes, Satan is arguably the strongest ball in the entire game. But here's the catch: Charm only becomes available after your very first clear of the Heavenly X gates, making it the last of the basic balls you unlock. So by the time you get it, expectations are sky high. And sadly, most of its evolutions trip over those expectations pretty hard. Starting with Charm itself, it feels more like a stepping stone than a real power spike. And that's fine if Satan is your goal. The real disappointment comes from its evolutions. Succubus sounds amazing in theory, but in practice it gets completely bullied by Incubus, which does the same job but way better and with less effort. Wraith is even worse because depending on which Ball X Pit characters you are playing, it can contribute almost nothing to your run. There are situations where it feels like an empty slot pretending to be an evolution. So yeah, outside of the glorious Satan payoff, this entire branch feels like a long walk for very little reward, and that is exactly why these evolution balls land comfortably in D tier. The evolution balls in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right: Flicker, Broodmother, Laser Beam, Lovestruck, Shotgun, Bleed, Dark, Egg Sack, Soul Sucker, Landslide, Vampire, Laser Horizontal, Fireworks, and Brimstone. There is this awkward middle ground where a ball is not terrible, but also not something you are excited to build around, and that is exactly where the C tier balls live. Laser in its horizontal form is actually the better of the two laser options, and at first glance it feels solid enough. The problem is not the base ball, it is what comes after. Its entire upgrade path feels oddly toothless, like it wants to scale but never quite gets there. You can clear rooms, sure, but you are never melting them, and that becomes very noticeable once stronger area damage options enter the picture. Flicker is a great example of something that sounds incredible in theory. Full screen area damage feels like it should be busted, but the actual numbers are just too low to matter, especially when Sun and Flash exist and do the same job with way more impact. Then there is Lovestruck, which tries to tempt you with healing, but forgets one very important detail: it barely deals any damage at all. Staying alive is nice, but not when enemies take forever to die. If healing is what you are after, you are much better off committing to one of the Margito balls, because at least those let you sustain without completely sacrificing your damage. That is why these balls land squarely in C tier, usable, occasionally helpful, but never the stars of the run. The evolution balls in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right: Voluptuous Egg Sack, Black Hole, Holy Laser, Freeze Ray, Flash, Nosferatu, Phantom, Sacrifice, Poison, Banished Flame, Incubus, and Cell. This is where things start getting interesting, because B tier balls are not bad at all, they are just awkwardly outclassed. Poison is a great example of that. Its evolution options are genuinely solid, and on a good run, it can absolutely pull its weight. The issue is that burn exists, and in most scenarios, burn simply does the same job faster and more efficiently. Poison feels like the long-term investment pick, while burn is the one that shows up and gets things done immediately, which makes poison a little harder to justify unless your build really leans into it. Black Hole is another classic, sounds insane on paper ball. The idea of massive control and damage is tempting, but in actual gameplay, it is extremely situational. The long cooldown already hurts, and when you add the complicated evolution requirement into the mix, things get messy. Needing Sun for the evolution is especially painful because Sun on its own is already an amazing unfused ball. Sacrifice sits in a slightly better spot, particularly if you are aiming for a bleed-focused build. Even then, once you hit New Game Plus mode, Hemorrhage usually outperforms it by a wide margin, so while these balls can work, they often feel like the second best option, which is exactly why they settle comfortably into B tier. The evolution balls in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Mosquito Swarm, Vampire Lord, Sandstorm, Bombing, Assassin, Laser Cutter, Leech, Blizzard, Lightning Rod, Noxious, Radiation Beam, and Overgrowth. Now, we are firmly in the territory of balls that actually feel good to pick up. A-tier balls are strong, flexible, and they usually make your run smoother the moment they come online. Radiation Beam is an excellent support option, especially if your build already has solid damage and just needs a little extra control and consistency. Leech shines in a similar way, but specifically for bleed-focused setups, where it turns steady damage into reliable sustain and keeps you alive through fights that would otherwise get sketchy very fast. Bomb is the real standout here, because it breaks the usual rule that pure damage balls are a waste of space. Its area of effect damage is absurdly high, and the cooldown is reasonable enough that it never feels like dead weight. Noxious and the Mosquito Swarm are also strong picks and can easily carry runs if you commit to them. That said, when given the choice, Virus tends to outperform Noxious, and Mosquito King is simply a more powerful and efficient version of Mosquito Swarm. So while A-tier balls are rarely a mistake, there is usually an even crazier upgrade waiting just one smart decision away. The evolution balls in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Sun, Hemorrhage, Maggot, Burn, Virus, Satan, Frozen Flame, Nuclear Bomb, Glacier, Magma, Mosquito King, Berserk, Inferno, Swamp, and Spider Queen. If there is one ball that feels like cheating without actually cheating, it is Sun. Sun is the result of Burn and Flash coming together, and somehow it does not even need fusion to be ridiculous. You get massive area of effect damage plus Burn status right out of the box. On top of that, Sun makes almost every other ball better the moment you fuse it, which is why so many builds secretly revolve around it, whether they admit it or not. Hemorrhage is where bosses start sweating. Created from bleed and iron, this thing is an absolute monster, especially in New Game Plus mode. It shreds high health enemies and pairs beautifully with Maggot, Magma, and Berserk. Throw in any of the big area of effect balls like Flash, Flicker, or Sun, and suddenly bosses stop feeling like bosses and start feeling like speed bumps. Maggot looks harmless at first, and that is the funniest part. On its own, it is pretty weak and honestly kind of sad, but the moment you start fusing it, everything changes. Maggot turns almost any ball into a screen-wiping menace. Just do yourself a favor and avoid using it with the Empty Nester or the Makeshift Sisyphus, unless you enjoy sabotaging your own run. Burn earns its place here simply by being the best basic ball in the entire game. It is strong early, scales well, and has evolution options with 10 other basic balls. That flexibility alone makes it an easy pick when you want to keep your build open instead of locking yourself into something too early. Burn is never a mistake, and that is rare. Virus is where things start getting gross in the best way possible. You get it by combining Cell with Poison or Ghost with Poison, and the disease effect automatically jumps from enemy to enemy. That alone is strong, but once you fuse Virus with Flash, Flicker, or Sun, things spiral out of control fast. Pair it with any mosquito-based ball, and the screen basically plays itself. Satan is what happens when Sun decides it was not strong enough. As a fusion of Incubus and Succubus, Satan takes Sun's massive area of effect burn and adds a Berserk effect that makes enemies kill each other. It is hard to obtain, no doubt about it, but for raw damage, very few balls in Ball X Pit can even compete. Frozen Flame, created from Burn and Freeze, is deceptively powerful. Frostburn deals damage over time, while also making enemies take increased damage from all other sources. That debuff is the real star here. With a 20-second duration, it easily outclasses similar effects and quietly boosts your entire build without demanding constant attention. Nuclear Bomb is exactly as subtle as its name suggests. This fusion of bomb and poison hits harder than anything else in the game. The initial explosion deals massive localized damage, and whatever survives gets to enjoy a radiation field that permanently weakens them. It is overkill, and that is precisely why it is S tier. Glacier, formed from Earthquake and Freeze, is all about control. Ice spikes freeze enemies in place, creating artificial choke points throughout the pit. What really surprises people is how much damage those spikes actually deal compared to similar balls. It locks enemies down and hurts them more than you would expect. Magma comes from Burn and Earthquake, and it shines once fused. It creates persistent lava pools that deal passive damage to ground units, letting your main balls focus on enemies higher up the screen. In longer fights, this passive damage adds up fast and gives you incredible battlefield control. Mosquito King is the gold standard for survival builds. As a fusion of Broodmother and Vampire, it spawns swarms of mosquitoes that steal health from enemies. It is especially effective in crowded areas and becomes downright unfair when fused with status-spreading balls like Virus. If staying alive is the goal, this is your king. Berserk is pure chaos in ball form. Whether you create it from Bleed and Charm or Burn and Charm, it turns enemies against their allies and causes absurd damage in crowded rooms. When fused with Hemorrhage, it becomes even nastier, as bleeding enemies tear each other apart faster than you can blink. Inferno, made from Burn and Wind, is the best close-range defensive tool in the game. It creates a massive fire aura that applies burn stacks to every enemy within a 2-tile radius. Anything that gets too close simply melts, making it perfect for protecting your position when things get overwhelming. Swamp, the fusion of Poison and Earthquake, turns the floor itself into a weapon. Enemies are slowed to a crawl, while their health slowly ticks away. It does not look flashy, but the control it provides can completely change how a run feels, especially when combined with other damage over time effects. Finally, Spider Queen earns its crown. Created from Broodmother and Egg Sac, it is the queen of multi-ball builds. With a massive proc rate for spawning egg sacs, it can fill the screen with hundreds of baby balls in seconds. Once it gets going, the pit becomes absolute chaos, and honestly, that is the dream. The video ends here. See you in another video. Don't forget to subscribe.